Well, hi guys, my name is Justin Bindel, and I have the privilege of being one of the pastors at Church of the Valley in Salt Lake City, Utah. My family and I moved to Utah in 2014. We came out of a larger church in North Texas where we had served in ministry for several years. And this church gave us a lot of opportunities to explore and learn our gifting in ministry and leadership, but there was always a desire to be a part of something from the ground up, to see a new church rise up in a city that lacked a gospel presence. So in early 2013, we began praying and asking the Lord for a vision for a city that was in desperate need of the gospel. And that's where Salt Lake City surfaced. If you're familiar with Salt Lake City, you may know that this is the home of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. In 1847, Brigham Young arrived in Salt Lake City, fleeing religious discrimination, and decided to settle the valley and declared that this is the place. This would be the new home of the Mormon Church. And while the city is growing, like most cities in the Western United States, it continues to lack a diversity of churches, and specifically churches that proclaim the truth of the gospel. So when we arrived in 2014, our heart broke for the city. Like Jesus, we looked upon the city with compassion and a desire for every man, woman, and child to know the good news of Jesus. So after arriving, we unloaded boxes and quickly discovered we had no idea what we were doing. How do we begin? Where do we start? We were in unknown territory, and we discovered our ways of bringing the good news needed to be enculturated into our new context. So we just began to seek the Lord for vision and clarity as to how we would live out the mission of God in our new home. We began to make friends. We began meeting people, serving people, blessing people, and sharing the good news of Jesus everywhere we went. We began to ask, what would it look like to begin training people to do exactly what we were doing? And those people then would come together on Sundays and celebrate what God was doing in our midst and receive encouragement to go back out onto the mission field that week. And that's where our journey began. We're now 7 years into our church. We've recently moved into an old grocery store style building and have a local presence in our community. And with that, we're continuing to live out our missional identity as a church. We frequently walk through our church neighborhood and pray over the homes in our community. We join and partner with local ministries that are seeking to bring the good news of Jesus through meeting tangible needs. And one example of that's an organization that we've partnered with called Care Portal. And Care Portal partners with the Department of Family Services, and as families need help or provision, they can reach out and be partnered with a local church. And as a local church, we've been able to contribute towards those needs. We've been able to meet new families. We've been able to pray and encourage them. And what we see in the Bible is Jesus comes. Jesus comes as a missionary to the world. And in the same way, he sends us out as missionaries to saturate the world with the good news of Jesus. As Jesus was a friend of sinners, we long to be known as friends to our city. And Jesus gives us a new purpose to make disciples who make disciples. We're to declare and demonstrate the gospel in the everyday rhythms of life with those in proximity to us. And missional living is not just an additional thing we add on to our already busy lives. Missional living is to live with gospel intentionality as we go about our daily lives, schedules, and rhythms. As we seek to lead missional lives, we're not concerned with keeping people busy or entertained with the church. We're striving to be the church and fulfill the mission of the church. Rather than inviting people to church, we're inviting the church to go to the people. And this is what it means for us to live out the everyday mission of God. I think the most important thing we've learned as a missional church is the importance in modeling. We learned very early on in our church planning process that missional lifestyle is more easily caught than taught. We live in a culture where we're so inundated with information. We have more access to information than anyone who has ever lived. And I think we can often think if we can just teach people how to live missionally, then we're winning. But people need more than just information. They need more than just a classroom style setting. They need real life-on-life discipleship. I think Jesus modeled this. And yet after 3 years, his disciples still struggled. It shows us our need to go beyond the classroom and into the rhythms of everyday life with people to truly model what it looks like to live missionally. More than proclaiming a missional lifestyle, we're demonstrating a missional lifestyle. Secondly, I think we've learned the importance of abiding. Our vision is to see the Salt Lake Valley saturated with the good news of Jesus. I think it's easy to make out there the goal. And the motivation for our going, though, comes from being saturated with the good news of Jesus for ourselves. We often say at Church of the Valley, the center of gospel saturation is our lives. Our lives need to be saturated with the good news of Jesus. And in doing so, it'll begin to pour over into our families, into our friends, into our neighbors, co-workers, and into our city. The end of John 15 says that we will bear witness, and we forget the rest of the line because it says, because you have been with me. It's easy to focus on the bear witness part and forget that this stems from a life that is abiding in Jesus and bearing fruit with Jesus.